In this video, you will learn what kinds of manufacturing projects are suitable to source in China and which ones are best left at home. You'll be surprised at how many factors there are to consider. Hi, I'm Michael Bloom, President of Sinotech. In this series of videos, you will learn how to be successful sourcing custom manufactured products in China. Many of the points made in this series are taken from Sinotech's 25 years of experience sourcing custom engineered products in China. Many of the lessons learned are not covered in any textbook or lecture. Let's begin. China is a great place to save money on manufacturing, but not all projects should be taken to China. Let's consider the factors that go into this decision-making. Degree of cost savings, labor content of product, volume of production, maturity of design, quality of drawings, clarity of specifications, your credibility, time to market. Let's begin with cost savings. Many companies will not bring a project to China unless there is considerable savings, typically 20% or more. Here's a chart of savings you might expect based on the type of product. China sourcing lengthens the supply chain and adds a number of risks, such as quality and delivery. When considering the cost savings, be sure to consider the entire cost of ownership. You'll need to pay logistics costs, such as shipping and duty, and you may have added warehousing costs. And don't forget the cost of money. When you purchase domestically, you'll typically have to pay your supplier in 30 to 60 days. When buying from China, you may have to prepay 30 to 60 days in advance. Your money is tied up for as much as 120 days. What about the labor content of the product? Author Tom Friedman says that in our flattened world, many costs are identical regardless of geography. Fuel is one example. A barrel of oil costs the same anywhere. The same is true of raw materials like copper and plastic resin. The biggest advantage China has is the relatively low cost of labor. The greater the labor content, the greater savings you will experience. For example, if you buy aluminum extrusions from China, there probably won't be any savings. Why? Extrusion is a highly automated process where molten aluminum is forced through an extrusion die with almost no human intervention. The dies are relatively inexpensive. But take that same extrusion and machine it, heat treat it, anodize it, and build it into an assembly, and you'll see a dramatic cost savings from China. Remember, cheap labor saves money, but so does automation. So highly automated processes in the US can compete with China. What about the volume of your production? What's the minimum volume you need to take your project to China? It depends. It has to be sufficient for the factory to take it seriously, and it has to match the factory's size and capability. You might need to order 1 million screws at a time, but only a few dozen multi-ton castings would be just as interesting to the factory. Small factories take smaller orders, while bigger factories with more automation require a high annual usage. Be realistic. Don't inflate your real needs in order to entice a factory. Factories may tolerate some variation between estimated usage and actual orders, but huge differences can break the bonds of trust. Consider the maturity of your design. Is your design stable and mature enough to take offshore? Going offshore is like steering an ocean liner. Changes in course are difficult to make and very slow. If you're at the stage of design where there are constant engineering changes, it may be better to wait. If you're at the prototype stage, you're not ready to go to China. There's an added advantage to moving existing production from the US to China because you've climbed the learning curve to the extent that you can help a Chinese factory not to make the same mistakes that your US factory made during its own project startup. What's the quality of your drawings? I can't stress enough how important it is to provide high-quality drawings with your request for quotation. The drawings should be done to international standards. They should be fully dimensioned and toleranced. If the product is an assembly, all of the individual component drawings should be sent as well as the assembly drawing. A China factory will judge the seriousness of your request based on the quality of the drawings. They will dismiss a request for quotation if the drawings are not professional. If your drawings are not of the highest quality, don't send them. You're not ready to source in China. What about the clarity of your specifications? Nothing should be left to chance or misinterpretation. For example, if you need a molded plastic part to be a particular color, specify its Pantone number. If the same part needs a particular fixture, there is a standard system of specifying texture based on a standard set of textured samples. If you refer to a national standard like ANSI, ASTM, JIS, or DIN, don't assume the China factory has access to the standard. Send them a copy. If your project specifications are not clear, don't send them. You're not ready to source in China. What about credibility? Why is your credibility important? After all, you are the customer, and you are an American customer. Why should your credibility matter to a Chinese factory? Well, many Chinese factories are swamped with orders, and that's great for the factory, but they're also swamped with requests for quotation from companies they do not know. Each request for quotation consumes a lot of limited engineering resources. If you are just one of that crowd, you might not even get a response to your request. If you're Ford Motors or Apple or IBM, you'll do just fine. But if you're not, you'll need to market your company to the factory. And here's a hint. Get your own company computer domain so your email address looks like John at some well-known company.com and not John at hotmail.com. If your email address doesn't look like a commercial email address, you might not be taken seriously. Another important issue is time to market. Many product introductions have a narrow window of opportunity. If product deliveries are delayed beyond that window, the project may fail. Sourcing in China takes time. It's not unusual for it to take 6 months or more. If you don't have the time or can't risk delays, you're not ready to take your project to China. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button above the video screen. This way, you'll be sure to get the next installment. Also, be sure to like us. If you would like Sinotech to review your project, be sure to visit our website, www.sinotech.com, or email to sales@sinotech.com. Until next time, I wish you success on your sourcing efforts.